Senate Republicans today blocking a bill to enshrine Roe v. Wade into law and protect a woman's right to choose. 49 votes to move forward on the bill, 11 short of what was needed. All Democrats except, surprise, Joe Manchin voting in support, all Republicans against. That's a contrast Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said he wanted to draw as Democrats look to galvanize voters in the midterms. The bill would actually have gone farther than protecting access to abortion nationwide, rolling back state-level restrictions. Manchin and two Republicans were calling for a narrower bill, simply codifying Roe into law. McConnell would have blocked it too, but it could have strengthened Democrats' message. Also today, new details from inside the Supreme Court. Political reporting, the leaked draft opinion from Justice Alito overturning Roe is still the only opinion circulating, with no signs that the court is changing course. In a moment, I'll talk to one of those reporters who broke this, Josh Gerstein. Joining me now is Senator Mazie Hirono, Democrat from Hawaii.
Hello.
She co-sponsored the bill the Senate voted on today, the Women's Health Protection Act. Thank you, Senator, for joining us this evening.
Good evening.
I want to start with this. You represent the state of Hawaii. Hawaii is the first state to allow abortion in the United States, 3 years before Roe versus Wade. When you talk to your constituents back home, what are they saying about what this potential ruling could, which we know is going to come from the Supreme Court? What are they saying back home? Are they terrified? Are they galvanized? What are you hearing back in Hawaii?
There are a group of women in Hawaii I know who are totally galvanized by this, even if the Hawaii women are protected. And I'm proud of the fact that Hawaii was the first state in the nation that said women should make this decision, not government. But the women activists that I know are very well aware that this could not be the end, because if the Republicans take control of the U.S. House and Senate, then there will be a push for a nationwide ban. And really, this is all about who's going to make the decision. Is it going to be a woman or is it going to be government? And the radical right-wing Supreme Court justices have said, in spite of over almost 50 years of precedent, we're going to let government make this decision, not women. That is the bottom line of this battle, in my view.
And your home state of Hawaii has already seen the results of what abortion restrictions have done. There's been a lot of reporting about an influx of people from Texas flying out to Hawaii, spending thousands of dollars, raising money through GoFundMe to fly to Hawaii in order to actually get abortions. What's the impact of that? Basically, abortion refugees coming to your state. What impact has that had on activists and organizers on the ground in Hawaii?
Well, of course, it points out that women are going to need and want abortions, and they're going to go to those states if they are able to get the necessary care that they choose to have. And so, yes, I know some of the women, a number of the women who are abortion providers in Hawaii, and they've written an op-ed saying that they are seeing this kind of result of Texas's law, which I think is one of the worst things. You know, it's obvious that these Texans who protest about wearing masks don't mind forcing women to have babies.
Right. I want to play you some sound. I think it's exemplary of the kind of people that you are working with in the Senate on the Republican side as an example of what they're not understanding about what abortion means to human women. And I get your thoughts on the other side.
If the majority opinion continues to be the majority opinion, and if the outcome is that the court does
the eggs of a sea turtle or the eggs of eagles, because when you destroy an egg, you're killing a preborn baby sea turtle or a preborn baby eagle. Yet when it comes to a preborn human baby, rather than a sea turtle, that baby will be stripped of all protections.
Senator, not only is that one of the strangest presentations I've ever seen, as this person seems to think that human beings and things that are born in eggs are the same, what is it like when you're sort of in conference and in discussion? You're one of the co-sponsors of the Women's Health Protection Act. Can you even have conversations with senators like that? Or is it mostly just about trying to rally whatever Democrats you can and hope that you get some reinforcements after the midterms?
As you say, it's really hard to talk to people who do not even acknowledge the woman.
Right,
How about that? Hey, who's having these babies? It's amazing that they have no problems forcing forcing women to have children. And then, of course, with the Republicans, once a child is born, they pretty much are the kinds of things that will support children, such as child care, such as paid family leave. Those things they can't support. So it is amazing that their position, because they are saying that it is government that should make this decision, not the woman. While the Democrats have a totally different view. We respect and acknowledge what used to be a constitutional right that we had for almost 50 years, the right of the woman to make that decision. So, of course, we're going to let the American public, 70% of whom support Roe, that it is the woman who should make the decision, not government. We need to get that message out loud and clear. A lot of the battle is going to happen at the state legislative race level, because it is Republican state legislators and Republican governors that have for decades passed these kinds of restrictive laws.
And that's what you guys are basically fighting against, not just with this proposed legislation, but sort of in the battlefields of 2022 as well. Senator Hirono, thank you so much for starting us off with this segment.
Thank you.
Turning now to another leak out of the Supreme Court. Politico reporting Justice Alito's draft opinion overturning Roe remains the only circulating draft. No dissenting draft opinions have emerged from any other justice, and none of the conservatives initially siding with Alito have switched sides. Also, all 9 justices are meeting tomorrow behind closed doors, so the protesters can't find them, for the first time since the public reporting of Alito's draft. Politico's Josh Gerstein is one of the journalists behind all of this reporting. He joins me now. Josh, thank you so much for joining me on the beat. So my first question is this. After this leak comes out, right, Alito sort of, his music is leaked. He doesn't like it. They're clutching their pearls. We still don't know if it was leaked by somebody in favor of this ruling or somebody against this ruling. Why do you think there hasn't been, I guess, a counter leak? Is it because the justices have sort of rallied together and like, we got to make sure this doesn't happen again? Or is it because they've pretty much resigned themselves to the fact that this is what the result is going to be? So what difference does it make if we leak anything else?
Well, Jason, I want to start by giving a shout out to my 2 other colleagues on this story, Alex Ward and Ryan Lizza, who did the reporting on the new story that we put up today. I think the reason there hasn't been a counter leak is, according to our information, there is no other opinion in circulation. So the way it typically works at the Supreme Court is that the justice assigned the majority opinion will circulate the opinion, meaning it goes to the chambers of all 9 justices. Presumably, the law clerks in each of those chambers get to look at it, and then the other justices decide how they're going to respond. But there's no firm schedule, except for the fact that the court usually leaves town at the end of June or the very beginning of July, and they need to get all their work done in all their cases by then. So as far as why there hasn't been a further leak, I don't know what you would leak at the moment. We have seen in different outlets dueling discussions of what's going on there behind closed doors. But you'd have to be one of the dissenting justices, I guess, or the justices planning to dissent, or Chief Justice Roberts, probably, to be in a position to actually have some more documentation to put forward right now.
How do you think this leak has affected, or could it potentially affect, the internal workings of the court? Justice Roberts last week said, hey, this is a violation. We're going to get the FBI involved. Is this a potential sort of 9 angry men and women situation where they're going to say, hey, first order of business is who leaked this? I mean, is that the kind of thing that will end up being discussed tomorrow? Or are they just going to kind of go business as usual and pretend that the last week and a half of protests and anger and frustration politically in the rest of the country has no impact on their chamber?
Well, I mean, it's hard to imagine that they can pretend like there's no impact. I mean, there's been all this discussion about security. I believe the Senate passed more money for security for the Supreme Court justices just in the last couple of hours. We've had the Justice Department announce that the Marshal Service, which is separate from the Supreme Court Marshal, we should say, who's supposedly conducting this investigation into the leak, the Marshal Service is going to reinforce the Supreme Court police to provide additional security for the justices. So that's another concrete step that's taking place. I mean, there's a lot going on in the court right now, Jason. I mean, you've got the issue of the leak. You have the issue of their security. And then you have the most momentous issue of all here, which, of course, is what this opinion is going to say. Will there be a majority to take down a federal constitutional right that's been on the books for 49 years? Or will perhaps Chief Justice John Roberts be able to sway some Republican nominee, some Republican appointed member of the court to a more moderate opinion that probably rolls that right back further, but doesn't strike it from the books?
Josh, quickly, I have to ask you this. If you were a gambling man, and I don't know if you are, what do you think is the likelihood that what we've seen in this league could be scaled back to just, supporting the Mississippi law, but not going after abortion in general? Do you think that is at all likely?
I think it's unlikely. I think the chances are probably around 10 or 20%. I think most likely these justices have had a long time to think about this issue. They were already obviously questioned about it in their confirmation hearings. They said what they said about it, but they also know what they think about it. And I doubt that other justices or the public reaction is likely to sway them at this point. But, these are human beings, so you never know for sure.
Yeah, Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett, Kavanaugh, we all knew they were lying at the time, and this is what they always wanted to do. Josh Gerstein, thank you so much for your reporting. Really appreciate it.